Anxiety Encyclopedia Recovery Q&A number 3. Oh my god, that's a long name. Thank you all for all the support that you've given me so far. I've seen the number of likes on Facebook, the number of subscribers that I have on YouTube, the number of followers that I have on Instagram, all increase. So I really want to thank you for your continued support. That said, I'm still trying to grow as a channel, so if you can think of anyone who would benefit from this video, or from my content in general, please do me a favor and send it to them. And if you haven't liked my page on Facebook, or subscribed on YouTube, please do so as well. All of the links for that are in the description below. Another exciting bit of news that I have is that I created a subreddit recently. I noticed that there are some people who have questions they want to ask, but they don't want to wait for these Q&As to come out every single week. They want a more immediate response. So if you are one of those people, if you have a question that you want me to answer, you can join my subreddit, AnxietyEncyclopedia. It's a long name, kind of difficult to spell. Totally understand. That's why I have included the link in the description up on top if you're on Facebook, or down below if you are on YouTube. So make sure to check it out and send me some questions that I can answer. That all out of the way, let us get to the question this week, which comes from Kelly on Instagram. Kelly asks, how do I stop anxious symptoms once they have appeared? Specifically, Kelly was asking about things like muscle jitters, but I think this also applies to things like nausea or butterflies in the stomach, to symptoms like rapid heart rate or rapid breathing. I think these all fall under the same umbrella. So today's question is, how do we stop these symptoms? As usual, to answer this question as best as possible, we are going to have to dive into the physiology a little bit. The most important piece of physiological information about anxiety is that the anxiety process is driven by adrenaline. Adrenaline is a hormone that is produced by our adrenal glands that sit right above our kidneys, and when adrenaline is released into the bloodstream, it constricts our blood vessels. What this does is it increases the rate of blood flow to our organs and to our muscles, which translates to a faster heart rate. It translates to more rapid breathing. It helps to tense our muscles. Unfortunately, there is only one way for our body to reduce the amount of adrenaline in our system, and that is putting it to use. This means that the muscle tenseness, the tenseness in our stomach, the increased rate of digestion, these things are all unavoidable. If we receive adrenaline when we're doing some sort of physical activity, we typically don't notice these symptoms because our focus is elsewhere. However, if we are not consciously using this adrenaline for some purpose, like physical activity, our body will find ways to dispense of adrenaline by itself. This is why, despite the fact that we have conscious control over our muscles, the way that our body uses this adrenaline to, for example, shake our muscles or tighten our stomach is involuntary. Unfortunately for us, this means that once our body has produced adrenaline, there's nothing we can do to get in the way of or to stop these physical symptoms from occurring. There is a caveat to this, a major bright side, and that is, while we may not be able to instantly release adrenaline once it has been created, we can actually stop our body from producing more adrenaline. In other words, we can attack this adrenaline production at the source. Once we do so, the symptoms will only arise for a few minutes, or even just a few seconds, and then gradually decrease in strength. So that brings us to the big question in this episode, which is, what causes our body to produce adrenaline in the first place? The biggest misconception about this process is that it's entirely unconscious. There's nothing that we physically do to create or stop creating adrenaline, but rather, adrenaline is just created when our unconscious brain sees something in our environment, and once it does this, we just have to grit our teeth and bear it. However, this is not true. To explore exactly why, I would like to take a small excerpt from my book. When we worry, it signals to our unconscious brain that we will be in trouble soon, causing it to start producing adrenaline. Though it is an invisible and intangible behavior, worrying produces adrenaline. That is, just by considering thoughts about discomfort or danger in the past, present, or future, we can induce a physical change in our body strong enough to cause all of the involuntary symptoms associated with adrenaline, from heart palpitations and nausea all the way to depersonalization, and of course, like Kelly said, including muscle tremors and shakiness. When we consider thoughts like, what if I fail my performance? What if I say something embarrassing to my coworkers? Or, perhaps in all of our cases, what if these anxious symptoms are dangerous? It is our worrying and not this unconscious process that causes us to experience further anxious symptoms. So, practically speaking, what does this all mean? It means that when we are experiencing anxious symptoms, 95+% of the time, it's not our unconscious brain reacting to something, rather it is our conscious behavior, our choice to worry, that is leading to all of these physical symptoms. This also means that the quickest way to reduce the strength of our symptoms and eventually make them go away completely is to tackle our worrying. More specifically, it is to shift our focus away from worrying onto something else. When we do so, the adrenaline that our body releases will decrease, and eventually our body will stop producing adrenaline entirely. Of course, if we have been lifelong worriers, this is so much more easier said than done. And in fact, one of the most difficult parts of this recognition and attention shift process is even recognizing that we're worrying in the first place. For this, anxious symptoms are not just there to make us uncomfortable, they actually play a really important role. They signal to us when we are worrying. This is why my book and others on the subject actually use anxious symptoms as a cue for the recognition and then the attention shifting process. This process of attention shifting can be quite nuanced, and if you would like to understand the full process, of course, at any time you can get my book. But if you're looking for a really simple explanation of how to shift your attention, you can take these 2 steps. First, when your anxious symptoms begin to arise, ask yourself the question, am I worrying? And if so, what am I worrying about? Number 2, answer the urge to keep worrying and shift your focus to something else. This shift in focus could be to someone you're having a conversation with, or to your professor, or to your boss if you're in a lecture or in class. This attention shift could also be to something creative, something that grabs your attention, like drawing, playing music. If you're in a public place and you're not speaking to anyone and you can't really do any of these sorts of activities to grab your attention, you can focus on something like times tables in your head, or if you'd like, you can focus on breathing exercises. There's nothing special about doing breathing exercises, as opposed to all of these other activities, that reduces anxious symptoms. But no matter which of these activities you choose, whether it is deep breathing or times tables, whether it is doing art or focusing on a conversation you're having, the importance is in cutting off the worrying. And by doing so, you directly cut off the mechanism that produces adrenaline in your body. Once you stop worrying, you will notice your anxious symptoms gradually decreasing in strength because you will have cut off the adrenaline that causes them. The less you worry, the more quickly these anxious symptoms go away, until within a few minutes, the anxious symptoms and the adrenaline that produced them are essentially gone completely. With consistent enough practice at this, you'll find that your anxious symptoms go away more quickly. You'll find that they peak at a lower strength, and you'll find that they appear less frequently altogether. Now, even though changing our behavior in this way is healthy, that doesn't mean that it's easy. If we have adjusted to worrying for our entire lives and we find comfort in worrying, this will actually be really difficult. Every time we choose to shift our focus back away from worrying, we will feel a sort of mental discomfort, a kind of cognitive dissonance, if you've ever heard the term. However, the more we stick to it, the easier it will become, until worrying itself is no longer the norm, and as such, anxious symptoms aren't either. So, in summation, to directly answer your question, Kelly, there is no way to snap our fingers and make anxious symptoms go away instantly. However, if we attack the adrenaline mechanism at its core and we shift our focus away from worrying, we can make these anxious symptoms go away in as little as a few minutes, or once we're really good at the process, a few seconds. If you have any more questions about this attention shifting process or are looking for some specific techniques to do so, you can always pick up a copy of my book on Amazon. I do plan on covering all of these topics in a future video, but if you want to shortcut the process, that book is always there. As always, if you have any of your own questions, you can feel free to leave them on Facebook or on YouTube, or from today on the Anxiety Encyclopedia subreddit. Otherwise, I would really appreciate it if you like this video, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys in the next one.